All right, this is take two with the Peak Performance Project by Dr. Rick Roque and sponsored by RETR with the support of NFM Lending. I wanted to feature Jason Jean, one of the top producers in Western Massachusetts, a good friend of mine and somebody that I've really looked up to in the local market as being one of the reliable. In fact, I've sent you some leads. In fact, I've used your realtors before to buy properties, and so I've used you as a trusted real estate, housing, and mortgage advisor, in our local market, as someone who's in the business myself. So welcome to the show, man. I'm really happy to have you on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Good to see you.
What I'm doing with this show is across the next 52 weeks, I'm interviewing top producers from every single state in the country, 50 states and 2 territories across the next 52 states or 52 weeks. And we're going to just talk about best practices. As we were talking earlier, I can take a top producer and for the most part put them in any organization, and they're going to be a top producer. And part of it is mindset, part of it is systems, part of it's relationships. In what I'm doing with each top producer through every state is to kind of go through each. I want to talk about mindset. I want to talk about systems. I want to talk about process. And I want to talk about, what really drives those individuals to achieve peak performance. My goal with the podcast to some degree is as I reach out and I touch about 2.5, just shy of 3 million people a year with my posts and podcasts. My focus is to try to get people who are C players, figure out that crack the code to get to a B player, and those B players to become A players, and those A players to become even better versions of themselves, to become A plus players, right? Because you and I both know that once you get to the top, there's always a new ceiling that a ceiling breaks, and there's a new ceiling that sort of emerges, and you target and you go after. So the job's never done. And so welcome to the show. I'm really happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, me too. It's good to be here.
So tell me a little bit about how Jason Jean got in the business. I think you had mentioned earlier that you had gotten into the business around 2005, 2006. You said you had made the transition from teaching. What were you teaching, just as a total footnote? What was your subject matter?
So I have a degree in biology. So I was like a science and math teacher at the high school level. And I did that for 4 years and realized that was not going to get me to where I wanted to be. So decided to leave, and just like most people in the mortgage industry, kind of fell into it. Friends said, "Hey, check this out. This will be fine." And at that time, it was a very low barrier to entry, thank goodness. And I got a job at AmeriQuest, which was just a refinance shop primarily, and kind of learned the basics there. But after about a year doing that, I realized that the business was really more purchase focused. So I went to a more purchase focused lender from there. So
walk me through your trajectory. I know you had mentioned that transition from purchase from refinance to purchase, and then once you got your feet into the purchase business, you had started to discover. At what point in time did you discover that, like, hey, I'm kind of better than the average loan officer at this? And what set you apart back then?
Well, I don't know if I ever came to that conclusion that I'm better. I think I'm just very stubborn. Like I never let myself get discouraged. I think that it's very easy to get discouraged, especially when you've got 1 deal, 2 deals, one of them falls apart. Most people can't make it through that. I just had a, hey, I'm going to make this work mentality, and I just able to make it work. But I wouldn't say that I ever came to the conclusion that I'm better than anybody. I really don't necessarily think that I'm better than anybody. I think it's, just about sticking to the basics and doing what others have done, consistently, and making sure that, you're held accountable in some way, shape, or form. If you can't hold yourself accountable, then have someone else do it for you and pay them a good amount of money to make that happen. It's worth it.
I love that when you talk about, sticking to the basics. Have those basics changed? Or do you think the basics have just always been the basics and it's just a question of the discipline and the tenacity and the diligence that the individual, the sales professional, commits themselves to it? I mean, has the basics changed, or is it just
the basics have changed slightly? They have changed slightly. They've changed with respect to technology. I would consider social media to be one of the basics, whereas 10 years ago I would not have.
Yeah.
So, but primarily basics are basics for a reason, right? They kind of don't really change that much. So overall, aside from anything that's technology related, I'll say no, it's not rocket science. You can, like, even if you go to all the different coaching groups out there, they all kind of have the same things that you should do. And then it's up to you to pick and choose what you want to do and how you want to implement it and incorporate it. But ultimately basics are basics. Like, they're probably not going to change very much.
So, like, as you progress in your career, at what point in time did you hire like a loan officer assistant and a processor? Like, what was that step function like?
Yeah, so I got in 2005. I would say it was probably because then in 2007, 2008, the collapse happened, which was a nightmare. And I would say it was when I went into becoming a broker. I think I became a broker maybe around 2011 and had a really good boss who owned the company, and he was super supportive, and we were able to prosper. We were getting to that point where it was like, okay, we're doing 90-hour work weeks, and we just don't want to have to do this anymore, right? Like, I'm not going to sacrifice my family, and we were getting ready to have one, and so I wasn't going to sacrifice my family to just because I wanted to get more numbers on the board, and so that's when I started to hire. So my first hire was a processor, dedicated processor, high attention to detail. That was in like 2012, maybe I'd say 2011, 2012, when I hired Andrea. And then, she was, amazing. Really helped like reduce my workload because I didn't have all different, processors handling my stuff. And then after that, my next hire was a licensed loan officer. And so depending on what coaching group, you're in, it's called something different, but that's,
so that licensed loan officer, is that licensed loan officer like following up with conditions and quoting price and helping the consumer, like basically on your behalf as an extension of you?
Yeah. That's the person who can make your life more normal, and not, because every loan officer who's going to be watching this can attest to the time where they went on vacation. It's not a vacation. You're on their computer the whole time, and that's not fun, right? So this hire is the person that makes vacations fun again. And so they can handle everything because they're licensed loan officer. Number one, you never hire anybody in that position who's brand new. Never. Hard rule. Because you're going to end up training them, and training them will take years, and it's exhausting. And I've done that multiple times, and I don't like it. I mean, I do like it, but I don't have time for it, right? Training someone who needs help is like really actually quite fulfilling, but it's also not. It takes too long. If you're running a business, you're going to hire someone who has more experience. So that's like your very next hire. So that was my second hire. And then
I think your video may have frozen.
Did it?
Does it look like it's frozen? Are you moving on your end?
I am moving on my end. So hopefully.
That's so strange. So maybe that could be.
I hope I'm not making a funny face.
I'll take a screen grab of it. No, keep talking. It might clean up in the post processing of the show itself when it loads. So here you are. You're back.
Okay.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That licensed loan officer makes vacations fun again because it kind of extends your reach. I think every top producer goes through that period where you're running the race far too hard, too early in your career. You're gonna burn out, or you get to the point of burning out, and you got to you have to pivot. You got to make an adjustment just for sustainability purposes, and you had to make that adjustment through having the individual, a licensed individual help you. Now, does that licensed individual also produce him or herself? Would you say what's the recipe?
Oh, you just went out. I totally missed all that.
So what's the, so that's all right. So what is the, what's the recipe there? So at what point in time did you hire that LOA or that licensed individual when you're doing about 15, 16 million, 20 million a year? Like, what is it? At what point did you hire that individual to help you?
I would say that, rather than give you a dollar volume, since people will be watching this all over the country. So in California, you might be like, well, geez, that's only one loan,
Yeah.
I would say that loan was probably around 5 to 6 units a month on average.
Got it.
Because the reason is you don't want to hire like behind, right? You want to hire ahead. So I would say I probably was doing closer to 10 a month when I did hire my first one. But now if I would say I'd recommend anyone who's at 5 to 6, because what happens is you're going to get to 10 loans a month so much faster if you hire your junior than if you don't, right? So don't wait till you get to 10 to say, hey, I need it. Go to 5, get one at 5 or 6, put them in place. You'll start doing 10 or 12. You're going to need another one.
Yeah.
But each one should be able to handle, I think, 8 to 10 loans a month, if not more.
Now is that individual also like originating, or would that person originating sort of interfere with the plan or the recipe to support you and to support growth for the broader team?
That's a good question. It depends on what you want to do. Like if you're a branch manager and you're going to make overrides on them anyways, whatever, I guess you could have a different approach. But no, anyone who is really going to be on my team permanently makes a decision that anything that they originate comes under me. And it goes to because I don't want, like, let's say that they're going to be getting a higher basis point compensation on anything they work on. Whose loans are they going to put first?
Exactly.
They're going to put their own first. So, so really, do I expect them to originate? Yes. Do they really originate? No, not really. Because the people that you're hiring in this position are people that are really good with getting the loan done, getting the loan in, looking at it, saying, yeah, you're pre-approved. Here's what could go wrong, setting expectations, and their attention to detail, and they're communicative. They're going to explain things well to the borrower, but they're not the people that like to go out and get the business. They're not. That's totally different. That's my job. That's what I like doing, right? So the people, you got to put everybody in the roles that they're like to do, or else they won't last long. And so those people, if it's the right person, they're not going to go out and originate for you. And I wouldn't even get tempted to do it. A lot of people are tempted to say, well, yeah, you can work on my stuff, and then, you can also do your own stuff on the side. It's just not going to work out well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look at something real quick. I think, can you see your production on that?
No.
Let's see here.
My eyes are not that great anymore. Getting old, Rick.
No, okay, got it. No, it's up there. So what I like about this is that you're doing just shy of about 100 units. you know, you've been, what I've actually discovered about Jason Gene is that you're the sixth, I think the sixth highest producer in our county. And a buddy of mine named Michael Kelleher coined the term "own your zip code," right?
Yeah.
He really, you know, his focus was to say that, you know, a loan officer shouldn't necessarily focus so far outside of their backyard when there's so much opportunity in their backyard that they could nurture, build those relationships, and capture those opportunities. That's what I saw Skylar up in Maine do really well. She was entrenched in her community, and of course she's in Portland. It's a huge MSA, right?
Yeah.
But she was, you know, sponsoring Little League baseball games, and she was out in the community doing, you know, the community parades, the July 4th parades. She was out there as being like a local mom. She made a point to say that, like, look, if I'm going to do stuff for my kids, I'm going to piggyback work opportunities with my kids. So if my kids are going to be in Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, then I'm going to somehow work into or make it known that I'm a mortgage professional. If my kid's going to march into the parade, then I'm going to march in the parade as well, and maybe do a $250 or $500 sponsorship, and make it known to the community that I'm a mortgage professional. You know, she identified like a nonprofit in the area to donate to. It was like a food pantry, so people knew that it was kind of like community giving back to community, sourcing opportunities to people in the community, so that those people would give back to the community. So what I love about you is that you reminded me a lot of that kind of skill set, because you're super involved in the community, and it shows in your numbers. The fact that you do almost a lion's portion of your business, almost all of it in Hampden County, is a pretty exceptional metric, you know, to sort of track, because, you know, you're in the, you know, you're top six. So, you know, the distance between you and the top three, number three, Anna Weishaus, is 30 million, is only about 6 million from where you are, right? So it's not a big jump to get to three, but that's hard because you're in a really small sort of ecosystem, you know, of business. But your production.
I'll get there. I, you know, in fairness to those numbers, I did take like 2 years off, kind of.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did take the 2 years off to like go build the Hanada Retreat, that company, and so
That's right.
that kind of got up and running. You know, towards the end of the summer is when I was able to like get back, you know, 100% full time into the mortgage business. So, you know, I haven't even really been back to business for a year. So you'll see my numbers go up, Rick.
No, and I'm not. Look, I think your numbers are phenomenal, you know, as they are now. I love the fact that you're not satisfied with it, because I think that just speaks to your mindset. Like, what is it? Most loan officers don't ever get to 20 million a year, and you're doing, you know, you're on pace to 23, 24 million the last 12 months, 13 months. It's like, the reality is, why is that not good? Why is that not good enough for you, where others simply don't get to that level? What would you say to me that what's the difference? What's the performance difference between that?
Well, that's going to be different for different people that have, you know, like you said, you know, single mom, right, who has to feed her, you know, children, and be like the one role model for them, like, is going to have a different motivation than I will, you know. But I think I'm just, you know, I don't know if it's innate, you know, but I always loved anything competitive, regardless of whether or not I was like necessarily the champion every single time. You know, obviously I like being the champion, but I also like losing, because you learn from that. So, but it was just like being competitive, being in the game. And I know a lot of the people that I work with that are successful in the industry are former athletes in some way, shape, or form, you know. certainly, not a prerequisite, but I think if you're, if you played any level of competitive sports, high school or beyond, like you have an edge because you know what it takes to be successful and have grit, and you need all of that in this business.
So what's go ahead and tell the audience what sport were you competitive in?
Soccer and wrestling.
And what did you actually were you actually how high, what was your performance level in wrestling?
I was state champ for Massachusetts.
So that's why your banner is at Agawam High.
Yeah. Well, it's in the back, so nobody sees it.
So I saw it. I saw it when my son wrestled in that gym last year. Let me ask you a question though. What is it that you draw from? I mean, here you're 45, 46, 47 years old. It's like, what do you draw from 20 something years ago, from 25 years ago, that still resonates within you today from the experience of you being a state champion wrestler back in whatever it was, 1995 or whatever?
That's a tough question. That's a tough question. You didn't tell me that.
Because you think about it. There's no question in my mind. You think about those days. There probably isn't a day that goes by that you don't think of a match or you don't think of something about wrestling. I guarantee you it's something that comes up frequently in your mindset 25 years later. And what was it that applies to, do you think, to your work ethic today?
It's big about self-discipline. I mean, obviously in today's world, a lot of people don't have it, and it's a shame. It's hard, but that's definitely one of the things that I took from wrestling. If you do the work, for me, it was like, like it or not, or, but like back in the day, we didn't really eat for 3-4 months. Right. So like, if you cannot eat for 3 months, then you can do anything. Right. Like, so that to me is self-discipline. So even if I have like a bad week, or, you go on vacation, you kind of get thrown off a little bit, you can always come back and just, like recenter yourself, and then get back to your Monday calls, get back to your Tuesday calls, your Wednesday calls, get back into the swing of things. Even though you might not like it, there's definitely going to be things that you're not going to like, but that's the beauty of self-discipline. If you're a disciplined person, then, and the right things to do, you just got to do them. So
how did you start your business? Because I know you are an active real estate investor. You've just launched, sort of a high-end retreat. I call it a high-end kind of retreat center for couples and families and companies to book, to have a place to go to in the Berkshires. That's Rick Rock's version of your company. But how would you describe what you've done out in the Berkshires?
Yeah. No, I mean, we built roughly 30 cabins on the mountainside, put in a excellent restaurant. And so we are operating that as a boutique hotel, and it's aimed to couples. It's actually an adults only retreat. It's not, we have massage cabins and everything. You get couples massages, but actually no kids allowed. So the only thing I would really take away from that is to say, there's no like families. Phase 2, we're working on phase 2, and that development will probably have an area where you're going to be able to have families. But we wanted to create something that was really aimed towards couples, just to kind of get away, do nothing, and recenter and, reconnect. And so that's kind of what we did. So it's kind of a big deal.
So that's phenomenal. So with that, and then you completing that project, and then sort of re-emerging as an originator, in the business, how did you get back at it? How did you get back into the swing of things to kind of climb your production? There's 221,000 licensed loan officers out there. Only 23,000 in the country did 23 million and up. Okay. So the reality is, you're in that top 23,000 nationwide. And you're being really humble, because I think it's a lot of people don't ever get into that. There's 200 plus thousand LOs who never get into that top 23,000. Right. And so your natural pace of performance is just at a much higher level than the average person, than the average LO. It just is. Right. So you coming back onto that, how did you do that? Like, what was that? What did you start with? How did you build? Walk us through that step by step.
Yeah. No. So I get back, it was probably sometime around August. And just plugging away. I just to try to get all my systems back in one place and really be more intentful in my design, right? Because my systems had fallen apart. Like I said, we got to break the engine sometimes. And that's okay. One thing I've found about the business is it's not, always an upward trajectory toward awesomeness. Sometimes, you have things that come up that cause the gears to grind. So when I got back, the first thing I could think of was really what made me successful in the beginning, or got me to the point where it was like next level successful, was coaching. So I stumbled across this coaching program and like really felt good vibes about it, because some of them you don't really have a good feeling about. They're more of a recruitment session. So I wanted to stay away from that. And so this one seemed to fit perfectly. So I did that, and that's been amazing. Like the group that we have is just absolutely second to none. There's no better coaching program in the country, I guarantee it. And so, to anyone who's going, well, it costs a lot, then I would just say it costs a lot not to do that. If you're going to go into it and you're just going to put your ego at the door and just do as you're told, you're going to make fistfuls of cash. Especially compared to what you're doing today without a coach. So,
and you're talking about Go Coaching, Amir's platform, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is your team like when you came back, or you were engaged more, more focused post, your investment opportunity that you built out in the Berkshires. How did you almost reintroduce? Did you feel like you were reintroducing yourself to your past realtors? They all knew who you were, but did you how did you butt your way to the front of the line after having basically gotten to the back of the line, because your attention went elsewhere?
So in our coaching group, we have an apology reset letter, and so that was a, hey, it's Jason. I'm so sorry that I was gone, and here's why I was gone. But will you forgive me? I would love an opportunity to, earn your trust and business again, something to that effect. And so I did that. So I just sent that out and then made a whole bunch of phone calls. Yeah. 100% reintroducing myself to it. I can't, you're not as important or as exciting as you think you are. Right. Like I couldn't believe when I got back and I realized that all these people that I loved and that I loved working with, and I think that they did too.
But they all moved on.
If you're not there nurturing, yeah, they're working with other people, and you're like, and some of them, I still haven't been able to, get back. But that's, when you go away and don't really support them for 2 years, like what do you expect? That's what's going to happen. So same thing with clients. Like if you're not staying in front of your clients through post closing, then you're taking your low hanging fruit and you're just throwing it out the window. They already know, like, and trust you. And so, yeah, it's just shame on you. if that's what's happening, you're not doing your mortgage reviews with them.
No, I mean, I love what you're doing. And is there a way to kind of cross pollinate? Do you ever do anything of saying like, hey, almost as a closing gift from the Jason Jean team to you, you know, you if you do 2 nights at our resort in the Berkshires, we'll give you a 3rd night free or something to that effect, to kind of say like, hey, take a date night on us. You know, you just did accomplish this amazing feat by securing this home. Book a long weekend, or book a weekend, or get 1 night, get 2 nights, get a 3rd night free or something like that. Have you mixed around and being able to cross pollinate between what you're doing in the Berkshires with your real estate practice and your clients?
I have not. I think, it's not a bad idea. I have come back, and closing gifts, to be honest with you, are not really part of my strategy right now. It's not a bad thing. I think that there are good things out there. At a previous company, it was like really automatic for us, and we were able to just sign up, and like for $42, they would send whatever with their name on it, and like a nice blanket or whatever. I definitely don't think bottles of wine or alcohol are a great idea. But something that they can keep for a period of time is good. But like, right now, we charge more than a blanket for 1 night over there. It's a little higher end. And we're still,
it's better to stick to the magnet on the fridge.
Yeah, right now. But like, we're also still figuring out like the seasonality beyond different things. So, we're going to figure out that side of the business before we really do anything like that. But it's a good idea.
No, I think it's amazing, because I do like the apology. You kind of do the apology tour to kind of say that, hey, I'm back. Apologize for taking a step out, but I needed to do that for this business venture, but I am back, and I'm going to, deliver on the same service levels that you've always expected. And then also to be able to elevate my game, because I owe you something now. I really owe it to you. If you were to give me the honor of earning your business again, I'm really going to owe you, and I'm really going to, serve you at better levels that I've ever had, type thing.
Yeah. And fortunately we've been able to, my team right now is growing. We just hired 1 more person, and she's going to really help increase our capacity. But I think we've closed maybe, I want to say it's 10 in the last 4 months that were rescue deals, where they were denied at closing by another lender, and we were able to turn it around in like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
And close rock stars, getting stuff done and making sure things go smoothly. So yeah, I think we're poised for success there. But yeah, to that point, like, you have to make the realtor happy when they do give you that other shot, because they'll forget you real quick if you say, "Oh, no, I promise we're going to be good," and then you're not. That's good luck ever talking to them again.
Yeah.
So
well,
you better
yeah,
have your stuff together. Yeah.
What would you say to be, how do you structure your week? Like, how do you structure the time to, there's obviously the in-process files you have. There's your past clients that you need to just say, hey, have you looked at it? What is your rate? Have you looked at what your options are? What all your needs are? You have a kid going to college or whatever the case may be. Have you looked at your equity recently? Because obviously a lot of consumers are sitting on a ton of equity, and they just don't even know what to do with it. Because thinking about what you do with the equity that's in your house is really not top of mind to 99% of consumers. It's just, they're just not, right? So the question is, if they knew of a product and someone educated them about what they could do with that money, more often than not, they're going to do something with it. They're going to plan, talk about with their spouse, and pull the trigger on some kind of event on rehabbing, putting on an in-law suite or whatever the case may be. So how do you time block between like in process, past clients, realtors you're currently working with, and realtors you'd like to work with but aren't?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Monday mornings. So first of all, anything that I'm going to time block is going to be done primarily in the morning, because as you go through the day, your willpower gets weaker and weaker, right? So if I'm going to have to stick to something and require self-discipline, then it's going to be in the morning. My chances of success go way up versus if I said, oh, I'm going to make my calls between 4 and 6 at night. So
Which you used to do. Like, if I remember correctly, you used to have that power hour, like that. Remember that dialing power hour between 4 and 6 at night?
Right. But that was me telling other people to do it. And then I could hold them accountable. Right. Like if you're in an office and your boss says, hey, this is your job to call from 4 to 6, you're going to call from 4 to 6. But if I'm holding myself accountable, which I am, I'm going to structure it earlier. But also, a lot of our calls are, like you said, in process. People are going to be looking for ways to pick up the phone when there's a deal in process. They're not going to miss my call. So I can call in the morning and they're going to answer it, and then, and then the other calls, like, so Monday morning are generally all the realtor calls. And so you can do it a number of different ways, but you could have, your list of like 30 or 40 realtors that you want to try to hit with some type of nugget of information, some type of, piece of wisdom that hopefully, will help them become a better agent. And so I usually tie that call to something that I've produced in my newsletter. So I send out an realtor newsletter every Monday morning. And so usually there's a whole bunch of pieces of nuggets in there. I can just pick from that and then share that with the, in those calls. The other thing I started doing too is the voice notes. And so you do voice notes really well too. But like realtors are busy. They don't really, they do want the nuggets. Like they say they want them, but they also don't want to have a conversation for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Like, so a lot of times they'll just let it go to voicemail and good, leave a voicemail. Let's forget it. Nobody checks that anymore. So you just send them a video, like voice text. It's like 100% open rate. It's fantastic. And you can just say, hey, thinking of you, had this product, come on, and blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you know of anybody that'd be a good fit, whatever it is that you've got, just to stay in front of them. So those are helpful. So I'll do that like, between 9 and 12, roughly 9:30 and 12, Monday mornings. And then Tuesdays are in process calls. That's where we call the borrower, the list agent, buy agent, attorney, and then let them know what our updates are for that loan.
That's on Tuesdays?
Tuesdays.
Oh, fantastic. So Mondays, realtors, Tuesdays are attorneys, financial advisors. Okay.
Whoever, and those are on the deals that are in process on Tuesday.
Oh, got it.
So you can, but if you have 10 deals in process, that's literally like 30 or 40 people that you have to call that day.
Yeah. So
there's quite a bit. And attorneys are great because nobody calls them. Closing date changes or title companies, like closing date changes, nobody even tells them, so
they're the last to know.
And, they run into referrals too. And so they're going to send them to the people that are doing the work, so that's Tuesday. And then Wednesday are more of like database calls. And then, so those are people who, if you're approaching like an annual renewal, like not renewal, but the anniversary, the loan anniversary date, anyone that closed like this time, last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, call and, check in, see how you're doing. You could do an annual mortgage review with them. If anyone's having a birthday in the next 7 days, then calling them before the actual birthday, because if you call them on the birthday, you're just in a sea of everybody saying happy birthday. But if you call days in advance, I just wanted to check in. I see what's going to be your birthday next Wednesday, or this Wednesday, and I just wanted to, be the first one to say happy birthday to you. Like, that goes a long way, And so that's Wednesday. Thursday is kind of a flexible day, so I do like a lot of new lead calls. If someone said that they were going to apply, but then they didn't apply, that kind of stuff. Also, more database calls spill into that. And then also, like you said, if you have any financial planners that you want to incorporate into the mix. And then Friday is the pre-approved and shopping buyers. So if you have any buyers that are out there, that you've pre-approved, because I'll tell you, this is the biggest mistake that most loan officers make. You give them the pre-approval, and then what do you do with it? Good luck. Call me when you find something, and then 3 months later, you found out that they closed with somebody else.
Yeah.
Your chances of that happening go way down if you're calling them. I like to call every other week. I feel like every week to call and say, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, still looking. You called me like the last 4 weeks in a row. I told you I'd call you. Some people get a little bit annoyed. But you can, but that's another great one to do on Fridays.
And part of that is it creates space to be able to say, hey, I want to make sure that we don't drop the ball. I don't mean to bother you, but at the same time, I'd rather run that risk than run the risk of dropping the ball and underserving you, because I want to make sure that you have the best options in a changing market as possible. So please forgive the repetitive nature of my calls, but this is the reason why I'm calling it, because the loyalty that you build, and this is what you do perfectly, the loyalty that one builds, a loan officer builds with a realtor or with a consumer like that, it gets to a point where they would almost feel badly if they went with another loan officer. The only reason why they go with other loan officers is because there's space that loan officer who lost the deal, who dropped the ball, created too much space for someone else to get in the way. Where that, whether it's a physical space or an emotional space, but the loyalty gave way to the space that the loan officer created. So, that's the reason why I do, like, I'll be sitting at 11 o'clock at night, and I'll schedule text messages to go out the next day, or I do the video messages like you've seen, because I can't tell you the number of broker owners who do not want to spend time on a phone call, that they simply want to hear a cold pitch to someone, right? Or from someone. But when I send to a broker owner who's got 300 agents or 500 agents or whatever the case may be, and I send them a brief 40-second, 35-second video message, very concise, I rehearse it about what it is I'm aiming to accomplish, my response rate is really high. Like, it's 60, 70% high. Like, they will either say, no, we're good, or yeah, why don't we have a conversation? But at that point, I don't really care if it's a yes or a no. I just want a response. No, it's the lack of response that drives me bananas. But if I can get a response out of them, if it's a no, then I can maybe have another stab at it to see if there's a way to work our way in. But but then again, if it's a yes, then I have a window.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a time where I was doing a loan for a friend of mine, and he was working with this agent who was really bad. And he was also like friends with other friends of ours that were realtors. And I said, Tony, why are you using this person? Like, why are you using one of our friends? And his response was that he met her at an open house, and she just continuously followed up from time to time, like probably, every few weeks or something, until he was ready to buy. And he felt bad. He felt obligated to use her, even though he didn't really like her. She was a terrible realtor. She had major commission breath, if you know what that is. It's where you can smell the fact that they just need that commission check. They just got to get it because they're broke. So that was who she was. And but yeah, that was a good learning experience for me. I was like, oh geez, I guess I better step up my game on the follow-up.
Yeah, no, you actually introduced me to the Nielsen team, and that was, and I did a deal with him, and he was excellent, and what I loved about it was he extended it to his mother, and the last person I was going to do was screw over a friend, meaning you, and B, his mother. So it was like once he had me on with his mother, it was like I was never going to go anywhere else. But
his mother's very good too. I've done about 100 deals with her, so she's
but that's the emotional space I'm talking about, is that once you close that emotional space, then you build the loyalty there, and you can appreciate sort of one another, and you can kind of dive into the needs of sort of both parties. But I think automating the systems, the contact systems, is really important. Sometimes people overthink it with all these technical systems and email campaigns. At the end of the day, it's physical touch points, video touch points, audio touch points, updates, and just valuing people's time, because a lot of these systems tend to not value the time of the busy realtor or the top producing realtor.
No, I'm semi ashamed to say this, but I haven't used my CRM in like over a year.
Yeah.
Because the automated loan in process, emails go out and all that, which people do like. But as far as like email blasts and email campaigns and text campaigns and all that stuff, we're not using them. It's all manual, because I just don't think that they work as well as they used to.
I totally agree with you. Speaking of Maine, Skylar, who you have to meet now, she's really, really impressive. She was saying that that her husband in essence worked for the family business. He manages some Airbnbs and stuff like that, but it's really a family affair, and it's a lot of physical, scheduled and organized, but intentionally manual sort of outbound touch points. And same thing when she was doing 300-400 units a year, she wasn't using a CRM. She was using probably a spreadsheet. But it was a lot of like voicemails, text messages. She does use those automated services, those voicemail services, to do status updates.
Yeah.
And it just goes right to voicemail to somebody. She says her response rates are super high on that as well, because people see a voicemail and then they respond back by text or they call back. Saves her time, but it also saves the busy consumer or the busy realtor's time or the busy builder's time from having to, shoot the shit for, 5 minutes just because you called,
Right.
But no, so what's your goal for the next 12 months, or how do you what's the carrots? Like, how do you self-motivate? Like you had just mentioned that you had taken some time off, your production dipped, and then you re-emerged, and then you're back to 23, 24 million the last 12 months. Like, what is it that you're aiming to do for 2027, would you say? Is it production driven, numbers driven? Is it just expanding realtor partners, or you just don't even focus on the net result and you just focus on just doing what you need to do that ends up driving the net result?
I know, everybody teaches you to do your goal setting, and you can figure out how many calls you need to make to get so many applications to get 25% of them closed equals, I've done all that. But I'll say, to your point, it's the latter. It's like, I don't really look at the net result. Like, I don't even know what my year to date is right now. More than I do. Cause I just, it's all about my daily activities. Like, I know what to do in order to get more business. And so I'm just going to focus on that. And then as new challenges and new bottlenecks arise, I have to fix them. And so I'm not really, if you were to say, what's your next, target? My next target would be to do about 100 million, would be to clear that, 100 million mark. But again, mapping that out, it's like, I know I could map it out, but I'd rather make 10 more calls instead. Cause I'll just,
no, I love it. Cause you're a disciplined, like you're a wrestler through and through. My son is working his way through those same disciplines. And that if you do if you focus on the technique, if you focus less on winning and you focus on the technique, you're going to win more matches. And you just focus on the cardio and you just focus on the drills, the repetitive drills that become second nature, you're going to win more matches. So I love that because you are laser focused and very disciplined, knowing that if you do the day to day and you make those 10 extra calls, it's going to drive extra business without getting too caught up. Because so many people, focus on the end goal at the expense or the sacrifice of what it takes to get you there. And then you never get there.
Right. I've seen people who, they have their goal and then they spend all their time designing their website. And, then 6 months later, they're not in the industry and you go, Jesus, that was shocking. You got to start doing. If you're doing, you're going to be fine. If you're, procrastinating, then this business is not for you.
Yeah. No, I love this and we should definitely revisit again because I'd love to dive into remember that one report I gave you about all the builders and and even all the past closed loans. I could produce those reports for you still, but I'd love in RETR and
RETR is great.
But we should really we should really dive into the numbers and where those opportunities are in your local market so you can kind of see by the numbers which realtors are doing business with which loan officers and then how you can take advantage of their lack of attention to the space that they're giving those realtors,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I love the stuff that RETR has. My new hire was really the next step in order for me being able to increase my capacity by quite a bit. And she's just amazing. So I think it's going to be very quick when I can then turn to the RETR and use that data because it was, I couldn't believe how detailed it got in there. It's extremely valuable. Yeah.
Oh, just from the equity to, how long it's been since they did their last mortgage to who they did it with, of course, and the realtor and the loan officer and so on. So yeah, we could really
their grandchild's middle name.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, look, I appreciate you being on the show. You're a massively well-respected mortgage professional in Western Massachusetts, and I'm looking forward to continue to see your progression. And if there's anything I can do to help, I'm happy. Of course, I'll do it. But I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been so much fun. And I appreciate, I enjoy watching your growth too. It's impressive that what you've done. So it's good to see. Congrats to you so far.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you, Rick.
All right.